Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go on a journey this morning and we're going to find out a little bit about wayfinding. If that's of any interest to you, if you got lost on your way here, you can find an experience of how you might find your way around the built environment. So I am Jonathan Docksey, we're from Design JD, we're a wayfinding consultancy based in South London. Just want to show you a few things about how we can solve some problems in navigation today. So it's really important for every customer, for every person, that you find your way to the right location, making sure you're not late to your next appointment, maybe in an emergency, maybe just for your first time. So what is wayfinding? Wayfinding is about spatial problem solving. It's about understanding where you are in the built environment and getting to where you need to go to. It's about knowing where you are at the moment. It's about knowing where you're going to go, where you're heading to. But most importantly, it's about discovering new experiences, discovering that greatest restaurant, discovering that new location in the town centre, maybe even finding the best stand in the show. And that's what it is to have a successful wayfinding solution. So, how do we as human beings navigate around? You might see ants rolling across the footpath. You might see various things happening, but how do we as humans navigate around the space that we know today? You might speak to someone who's been to a place before, and they might give you some directions. They might write it down on a scrap of paper, and they might give you maybe a shortcut. Maybe from your hotel today, maybe someone gave you the map of where you needed to get to, and they can give you those directions. How else do we find our way around? We can use landmarks. We might think of a tall building. We might think of a large space. We might think of a park, a river, a road, and that will help us find our way around where we need to get to. So a great wayfinding solution needs to use all of these aspects to develop a successful strategy. The final way that we can find our way around is by simply using navigation. These days we all use GPS in our cars. We use all these bits and pieces, maybe on our smartphone, maybe on a tablet. We might look up the maps online before we go to our destination. It's really important that we can use these three things to help people find their way around. So, when we are looking to get around to a new place, we might have that conversation, we might see that landmark, but how can we help people in these tasks? How can we actually make people's journey a lot more successful? We can use people. We might think of a wayfinding solution as all about signs. Signs are one part of a wayfinding strategy. The most important people are those people that you meet at the reception desk of your office, of the hospital, of the destination where you're going. They will set the tone for your brand, and they will set the tone for helping you find your way around. The other thing that we can implement is signs. So we can look at using these successfully and using these in the right way, the right number, with the right information on them to help you find your way around. The core maybe of every wayfinding strategy is not a pixelated icon on the screen, but it's maybe a map that gives you the context of where you're going and what's around you. The old adage that if you never told me, I would never actually know. So a map can show a rich wealth of information. It can change when you need it to change. It can adapt to when you need it to adapt to. For example, you could have a map that gives you all the locations for the daytime, and that map can change digitally at the night time to give you all those night venues that you think are really great and that you need to get to and find out all about. So that's how we can develop a successful wayfinding strategy. Wayfinding strategies can work for a whole host of different environments. It might be a hospital, it might be a shopping centre, it might be an industrial estate, it might be somewhere where you remember, I always get lost there. A wayfinding strategy can help there. But what are the main problems that we can get when we're talking about finding your way around and navigating the urban environment? There are many problems that we have found in the work that we get involved with. So what is why wayfinding, and why is it going to be good for me? A wayfinding system needs to achieve these goals. It needs to set a great impression of your area. It needs to take your brand and take it into the built environment. It needs to give a great experience to every customer that you are developing and that you are keeping. It can help you not to lose so much money. It can help people to stay longer in your area, and that's really important to be able to improve on your spend. It's great for tourism. It can tell me of all the great experiences that I can have. It can tell me of all the great adventures that I can undertake. And it can also tell people about where they actually are. For example, we're working at the moment in an industrial estate, and without a wayfinding strategy, you wouldn't really know who owns that area and who occupies that particular space. That is of essence. So if these come out, that's great. So what we have here are a few different problems that you may have experienced when you're moving around the built environment. Signage is great, but sometimes it's prone to some amount of damage, some amount of misuse. It can be poorly maintained. A wayfinding strategy needs to be maintained. It needs to have somebody looking over it and someone enforcing it as the months and the years go by, especially when the road names change so regularly. It needs to be consistent, and we get a lot of signage installed and the review is not undertaken going forward. So we need to use the consistent use of visual elements to improve people's journey around the built environment. It needs to be flexible. It needs to be able to be updated. The old A4 laminated piece of paper can be used in a quick way, but especially in a hospital, it is great for improving the effectiveness of all those lovely diseases that the hospital is looking to get rid of. So it's a really important and effective strategy is implemented to be able to help people find their way around a hospital environment. And it needs to give the right information. Which way is King's Cross Station? You can either go one way or you can go the other way. Hopefully you'll pick the right one, and hopefully you'll get to the right place at the end of the day. So it needs to have the right messages given and not mixed messages and mixed communications. Signage needs to be maintained to a high standard. If signage isn't maintained to a high standard, then it gives a negative feel for the area which you're in. And there's one solution for all problems. There's one thing that solves a multitude of things, and that is the wonderful, the one and only gaffer tape. If your sign is not up to date, just get a roll of gaffer tape, stick that over the top, and hey presto, you are on your way to ultimate success. So, if we want to develop a wayfinding strategy for an area, how do we do that? You might think we take a catalogue of signs and go and implement those there. First of all, the most important thing that we have to do is to discover what the problem is, to get an idea and to get a feel of what the situation is there in that environment. Yes, because the problems might be different in different areas, needing different solutions. And then we can design a strategy that fits to those problems. And then we can develop a range of signage that actually solves those situations. So what does a successful wayfinding solution look like? A wayfinding solution should be able that people don't have to think about where they are and where they're going. It shouldn't be confusing and disorientate people and make people uncomfortable in the space where they are. Show the information that is relevant to that area, and then you can navigate along that path. It should only show that which is needed, the space and the immediate context of that area, and the removing of excessive information. If we are given too much information, our minds clog up and our minds can't take in all of that data. We can only hold 5 pieces of information at any one time. That's why our addresses are normally very short and very sweet. We can't have a whole list of directions given to us and take that all in. So it's really important to give the right amount of information at the right time. A successful wayfinding solution needs to be accessible. It needs to have various principles applied to it. It needs to actually have these various standards accommodated for it to be able to work for all people. It needs to be accessible for all users. For example, it needs to apply to all the discrimination acts. It needs to fit for the visually impaired and the physically impaired. It needs to work in a particular environment, maybe for dementia users. That might be specifically applicable to the healthcare sector. Wayfinding for dementia is a completely different field and a specialist area that we're involved with. We work with Transport for London on projects in the UK, and we work with the principles of heads-up mapping. That is, the map in front of you is exactly the same as the environment that is in front of you. We can give you the scale of the environment which you're in. You need to know if that destination is 5 minutes away or 15 minutes away, depending on if you need to actually leg it and run fast or not. And to orientate yourself, we can give you a compass direction so you know which direction is north. So where is wayfinding required? Where are the locations which can benefit from such a strategy and these projects to be implemented? They would be cities, town centres, stadiums for sports venues, for music venues, etc. Retail spaces, shopping centres, huge shopping malls that can have these strategies applied to them. Industrial estates, where you have mixed use of people walking, driving at various eye lines in various different types of vehicles. Museums, exhibition spaces. One last one where there are a certain type of sign that might not be included, and that could be a prison. How about getting the way out signs to be taken away out of all of the prisons? So when we're developing a wayfinding strategy, we can look at some core aspects that need to work for that brand to be implemented. We need to get the correct typography so it's consistent across all areas. We can start to use colours to zone areas up to make the area more digestible. When we have a large and a vast space, we need to make that easy, and we need to break that up into sections so it works for all of the users required. We can use a range of pictograms to help people understand what things are and where they are. It's really important to take the right information and put that into a pictorial sense. So especially we're in a dual language area, then we can understand what these various aspects are. So we have a bed for a bedroom in a hospital, and we have the pills for a pharmacy in that same healthcare situation. Another really important thing that we've developed as well is important use of mapping in those areas. You can see here a map for an industrial estate in the south of London, and that has been split up into the various coloured zones. So you hit the estate, and then you know exactly where you're going, whether you're in the red area, the blue area, or whether that's zone A or zone B. So if you're colorblind, we have 2 different denominators to those areas to understand where you're going in that particular space. So this is the project, a few snapshots of the project in South London. It was a project for an industrial estate. People were finding it hard to find their way around that area, whether they're driving in a HGV or whether they're driving in a smaller vehicle. So we arranged a range of banners and a range of signs to help you find your way around the built environment. This is a similar project. When we're developing a wayfinding strategy, we need to develop a range of signs. We need to develop a range of tools in the toolkit to help people navigate around. So here we have a range of signs. We have signs focused at vehicles, and we have signage focused at pedestrians. It's really important to encourage people to get out of their cars and to use the pedestrian facilities that are available. But as well, in an industrial estate, we're going to have a high capacity of heavy goods vehicles, lorries, Arctics and trucks using that space. So it's really important to take the brand of this industrial estate and use it across the signage. It's important that that brand for this area is rolled out in a uniform and in a consistent way to help people find their way around the built environment. And this is a sign, an old sign in a hospital in the UK. And it's there, it was built, and they've decided to put a ramp across it. So it's important to review the signage that is there when you need it to be. One analogy I give, one example that I sometimes tell people about is we might all watch a football game, we might watch a rugby game or whatever sport takes our fancy. And the way a wayfinding system could be very successful is that it's like a sports referee. When the referee goes and gives a card in the wrong place, we all shout and we all scream that they've done a bad job. A wayfinding system should be like a referee doing a good job. We don't notice it, and it's there, it sits there, and it helps us find where we need to get to in a very easy and a very quick manner. So hopefully everyone's had a successful journey and everyone arrives as they need to in the right place, and they can say that they have found the way. So a wayfinding strategy should encompass all of those things. It should help people improve their experience and have a great journey to their end destination. If that's of any interest to you, you can take a card afterwards. I've put that up there. Did anyone have any questions or any things that they would like me to clarify? No, that's great. It's good to be able to introduce these things in a show like this. A lot of the time we go around and people to get a grasp of what a wayfinding strategy is. It's really important that people can have a great experience, that people can have a great journey, and people can understand where they're going and what they're doing in the built environment. I'd like to thank you for listening this morning. Thank you.